Hello and welcome to Filmi, ladies. It's an orange kind of day as we come back to our series on the colors of the rainbow and some other colors as they appear in Indian cinema. It's orange. I'm very excited. I think I'd say orange is my favorite color, unless
Yay!
I already said something else was my favorite color.
I thought you said yellow was your favorite color.
Yeah, I like a lot of colors.
But they're so similar and they're
Yeah,
neighbors. So
yeah.
it's fine.
And if you are watching us on YouTube, you will see that Pitu is in like bright, super saturated a version of orange with bright saturated pink behind her. And I am in rusty orange with a brown background.
You're like an art movie right now, and I'm like a Govinda David Dhawan movie from the 90s. Any second I'm gonna burst into song and I'm gonna do like a couple hip thrusts.
Better. We wanted to start this episode by getting back to the book, The Secret Lives of Color, which Pitu has gotten from the library again, and is a book she highly recommends. I want to hear some about orange because having discussed yellow recently, it is a little hard to distinguish orange from yellow in some ways. So let's hear about orange.
This book is awesome, and she talks about like the history of the different colors and everything. And she's talked about like literally the first line in the orange chapter starts, "Those who have ever wondered which orange referred to first, the color of the fruit, need wonder no longer. The fruit was probably first cultivated in China and then gradually spread west, leaving its name scattered in its wake like a carelessly discarded whirl of peel." From narang in Persian to naranj in Arabic, then naranga in Sanskrit, naranja in Spanish, orange in French, and finally orange in English. Orange is a name for a color only emerged during the 16th century. Before that, English speakers had used the cumbersome portmanteau jolu red or yellow red, because you get orange by mixing yellow and red, so it's a
Mhm.
secondary color. One of the world's first recorded adjectival outings was in 1502 when Elizabeth of York bought sleeves of orange color sarsenet for Margaret Tudor. I assume sleeves refers to sleeves, but I'm not sure what a sleeve is.
And
Um,
Sourced?
yeah, I don't know what sarsenet is either. This is from 1502. So
Okay, we don't know.
but you have to hear this quote. I love it so much. And this book, especially, this line is so fitting, especially for the movie that I chose. So it says in his book concerning the spiritual in art, written in 1912 by Vasily Kandinsky, the Russian abstract artist, he wrote, "Orange is like a man convinced of its own powers." So there is no doubt that orange has a confidence to it. If blue is a stand in for the hazy unknown, its color wheel opposite has urgency. It is used to draw attention to potential danger. It is the color of Guantanamo Bay jumpsuits, Agent Orange, and since 9/11, the second highest terror threat level in the United States. It's used in traffic signage, warning symbols on roads, mostly because it forms a high contrast against the blue gray asphalt, even in low light. And I did not know this, the black boxes on aircraft which record flight information are in fact orange. I did not know this. I just assumed they were black, but they're orange in the hope that they will be easier to find in wreckage.
Sure.
Also, this is particularly interesting to me when the architect Irving Morrow was deciding in 1935 what color to paint the Golden Gate Bridge, which every Californian loves. It spans from San Francisco to Marin County. He settled on a rusty shade now called Golden Gate Bridge International Orange because he wanted a color that would blend in with the hills but pop against the sea and the sky. It also popped up in fashion. Oh, and I didn't know this either. But here's the interesting thing. It's associated as the signature color of one of the world's most successfully luxury brands, Hermes.
Oh,
Prior to the Second World War, the company's packaging was cream, but due to wartime shortages, they were forced to switch to mustard until finally they had no choice but to use the last paperboard color that was available, orange. I just found that so interesting. It was like, so Hermes picked oranges because it was the only option left to them. Like, that's interesting.
wow.
And then, of course, it also talks about how it's the Impressionists who made it really famous in art because, like, you have this whole canvas by Mango or Monet or whatever, and then you have this little dot of like the rising sun or the setting sun, and it just like pops, right? Like, it's not a color that blends. And I found this quote really interesting too. "Whatever the medium, there is no denying orange's air of braggadocio. Godey's lady's book pronounced it too brilliant to be elegant in 1855.
Wow.
So I think a lot of what I'm gleaning from this book is that the fact that it just like pops, it's a very like pow kind of a color, I think is what makes it so interesting. It's not a color that you're going to associate with like wallflowers or extremely shy people that want to blend into the background. It's a color associated with maybe like flashier people, probably associated with things like extroversion and just being very like vivacious and things like that. And like you, I have a little bit of trouble with the color orange because sometimes I can't tell the difference between orange and yellow on the one hand and orange and red on the other hand, because it just kind of like blends in sort of. But it's definitely its own specific color. And I think, especially in the East, orange has always been associated with spirituality because it is the color of Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and to some extent Sikhism as well. So there's four Eastern religions in which orange is very much the color that like mystics and mendicants wear. In Hinduism, we have an orange colored god, which is Hanuman. And so I know that orange is important in Hinduism because it is considered the color of renunciation. So you're giving yourself up to the fire because, like, the fire or the sun god is orange. And so you're giving up your worldly desires because you want to follow a more mystical path. And so when I think of orange, sort of like a fashion icon, I think of is actually Swami Vivekanand,
Sure.
because he made history by like going everywhere, like to the in Chicago and wherever, and he was dressed in head to toe orange and like posing in that way. So it's interesting. On the one hand, it's a color that's associated with braggadocio, like they said, but it's also associated with renunciation and kind of like higher learnings and maybe religion and philosophy and stuff like that. And sometimes those things have some overlap and sometimes they're very, very different. So that's very interesting. What are your thoughts on orange, Beth?
My thoughts on orange are heavily colored by, of all things, this is so dumb. This is so very American, but that's what I am. Uh, I have spent a lot of time at educational institutions, one of whose colors include orange. So for me, orange has always been associated with a couple of particular schools.
Hmm.
So it took me a while to break it from like a school spirit, kind of like rah rah, school patriotism kind of thing. But
Yeah.
and the institution where I currently work, the university where I work, one of their colors is orange. So I have, it's always there. It's around a lot in my life just because there's orange billboards, orange bumper stickers,
Right.
orange signage,
Hmm.
everywhere. When I did, the marketing work for the museum, I had to deal with orange as an official color for the university,
Mm.
and things like that. So, orange has always been around for me. And my high school
Right.
had orange as one of its colors. So it's just around. And as a child of the 70s, there was a lot of orange, more of the rusty kind of pumpkin orange like I am wearing now was around a lot, but we had pretty deep but bright orange carpet when I was growing up
Oh,
because
right.
the 70s. So so I don't know if that influences the fact that I like it, but I do. I think I've broadened my appreciation for orange over the years because I feel like when I was in high school and stuff, like that was not a popular color other than for school spirit day or whatever, but it's a color I love. And as an autumn on the color,
Right.
this is very much a color that I think works well with my skin and hair coloring and everything. But yeah, I like orange and I'm always happy to see it. There's so many beautiful orange plant flowers in particular, but
Hmm.
the leaves in the fall when they go to some of those oranges, I just think is one of the most beautiful things in the world. So I'm very pro orange.
I love all the Fanta and Mirinda and Gold Spot commercials
And
and fruity commercials in India.
it does often point to something delicious. Orange is a
Right.
delicious color in my experience.
Hmm. So it's so funny that you should mention flowers because I know that the movie you're going to talk about
Yes.
features orange, like marigold flowers, very heavily.
Yes.
So do you want to tell us which movie you chose?
Yes, I chose Monsoon Wedding. That came to mind
Yay.
immediately upon thinking about orange because of the marigolds, which I did not know are not indigenous to India at all. They come from Mexico.
Hmm.
I knew they're heavily used in Mexico, but I did not know that was their origin. So this, like the tomato, the potato, and other chilies, even that we think of as being very, very Indian, it is actually
Pineapple, I think, also comes from South America.
yeah. So not Indian if you go back very far, but obviously incredibly prominent as a flower.
Right.
in India and so, so beautiful. I grew up with marigolds in the garden too, but I never had any particular, I think they're pretty, but like they're these fun
Yeah.
pom-poms of color, but I didn't really think about them very much. But Monsoon Wedding is a movie that I saw in the theater. I've always loved. I haven't revisited for a while, so I was so glad to find it and watch it again because it's just so beautiful. And I I imagine everyone listening to this has probably seen Monsoon Wedding, but if you haven't, it's the story of a an arranged marriage within a, I think we call them very upper middle class or
Yeah,
lower upper
rich.
class, very fairly rich family in Delhi. The daughter is having an arranged marriage. Her intended has come from the United States. She is having an affair with a married man. So that's kind of in the background and there, her last interaction with him because he proves himself to be a real scumbag.
Mhm.
Um, she decides to tell her fiance this, and he reacts very poorly at first, but he comes around pretty fast and he's like, I have had a broken heart too, and I really appreciate that you told me. And then they're like all cute and snuggly for the rest of the wedding.
Right.
The extended family is coming from all over. Um, there's uh there's a plot line about one of the, I believe she's a cousin, right? Shafali Shah's character is Vasundhara Das's
I
cousin, I think.
I think so, but I don't remember. It's been so
Yeah,
long.
something. So another younger woman of the extended family, we find out that she was sexually abused by one of the uncles who is played
Mhm.
by Rajat Kapoor. And every time I see him, I think of this character because it was the first thing I ever saw him do.
Oh no.
And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. You are such a great actor. I love your stuff, but you're always creepy Uncle Ted to me. Um, and
You're like screaming at the TV every time he comes, "You're heinous."
I will spoil this film in case you haven't seen it. She eventually tells people, and at first some of them don't believe her, including, I can't tell if this woman is his wife or his mother. I think
Mm,
it's I think it's his mother, but I'm not sure. And Nasiruddin Shah is the patriarch of this family, and he has taken Shafali Shah in because her father has died, her parents have died. And he eventually says to her, you are my daughter. And he believes her and he tells the other guy to leave. And
mhm,
this scene, every time I think about who's my favorite in this movie, it shifts with each ongoing scene. But the look on her face when she realizes that not only does someone believe her, someone's going to take
mm.
action on it is one of the best things I've ever seen in a movie. And yeah, I just love this. But then there's also other family stuff happening and a little bit of money worry. There's a younger son who does not conform to what his dad, Nasiruddin Shah, wants him to be. His mom is Lilette Dubé, whom I
Okay.
love. Randeep Hooda is in this. I had completely forgotten he's
Really?
one of the far-flung cousins who comes back to
Okay.
Australia. Would not have recognized him without looking at the cat because I saw his name coming up in the credits. I was like, wait, what? Um, just uh Kamini Khanna is one of the aunts. Your favorite Kubushan Karbanda is there. He's not in it a whole lot, but it's just a great cast. And this is the first Indian film I ever saw.
I know. So
And
special.
yeah, and I think I can imagine for a lot of people sort of like me demographically, this may have been the first Indian film, or at least the first contemporary Indian film that they ever saw.
Yeah.
And it ticks absolutely everything, you know, 25-year-old Beth kind of thought she knew about India while also expanding greatly, some my concept of culture and story and aesthetics and things like that. And of course, I have not yet mentioned maybe the actual stars of the movie, who are Tilotoma Shome and Vijay Raz, who are the maid of the house, and then the wedding
Yeah.
planner, wedding coordinator guy, and they fall in love, and it's so cute. And there's a scene of him holding a heart made of marigolds out to her.
Oh.
And there's another scene where she's cleaning and she picks up a marigold and like tucks it behind her ear in her hair.
Oh.
He sees her do that. And then he actually picks up a marigold and eats it at one point, like very contemplatively. And it's just, oh, it's so sweet. And they actually end up getting married too. This is so cute. Oh. There's a lot of orange. So there's the marigolds, but there's a lot of orange in the festive clothing. There are candle
Mm,
flames, there are mendi, and depending on other, okay, is mendi brown or is it orange or is it red? But like, it's in that
right.
palette. There's warm colored walls. There's a lot of warm colored.
Bonfire, if I remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just it's just such a beautiful film and it glows with orange to me. So I was
Mhm.
really thrilled to pull it out for this conversation.
And marigolds are like so ubiquitous in India. So, an American friend once asked me, like, why all Indian weddings have like marigolds? It's because they're cheap. So, if you want to do these big, like, floral walls, and if you want to decorate like every inch of your apartment building or your house or whatever with flowers, and you try to do that with like freaking orchids or something, it's going to cost you a bomb, right? But if you do it with marigolds, it gets the job done so much cheaper, and it still looks really nice, and it photographs well because
They're
it's nice
very,
and bright
yeah,
too.
and they're very dimensional, right? So they're not like
Yeah,
wide but flat. They're a pom-pom. And I think my experience with them is they're quite sturdy.
they
So
are. Yeah,
hanging them up and like letting them hang for a couple days would
yeah.
be fine.
They're not gonna like wilt super fast, but
Yeah.
really economics is honestly the biggest reason why marigolds are used as often as they do, because like you can set up like the, like I've been associated with the wedding planning for like some of my
Oh yeah.
baby cousins in India, right? Like everyone in the family pitches in, you're running around, you're speaking to the caterer, you're overseeing stuff, right? And it's like if say the wedding reception is in the evening, whatever, and you know they're doing it like earlier in the day, you need whatever flowers are being used to stay.
Yeah.
You can't have them just like wilting in the Mumbai heat, right? And the
Right.
humidity. So not only do you need something that's cheap, you need something that's gonna like get that you can make like these big gigantic garlands out of, and they stay and they don't wilt and they look festive and happy.
Mm.
But occasionally you'll have like some clueless bride who'll be like, ah, I don't want marigolds, I want something fancy like orchids, and people are like, girl, that's just burning
Right.
money.
Right. Throw it away.
Yeah, but like the marigold is literally called genda fool, and it's such a happy, happy flower. And one of the sweetest things I find when I go to India, like whenever I go temple hopping, I find it so sweet. Like, you know, outside temples, you have these flower vendors, right? That they sell garlands and flowers and things like that. And people buy what they can according to the size of their purse, right? And so some of the richer people will buy these big baskets that contain like lotuses and like really fancy looking stuff in it, right? But even the poorest of the poor will buy marigolds. Like
Mhm.
even that is something that they can afford. Or, you know, sometimes it's not even marigolds, sometimes they'll just sell like petals. Like they'll just rip up
Wow.
marigold petals and put them in. Even that is affordable to some people. So if you go to like a big temple in Mumbai like Siddhivinayak or Babulnath or whatever, you'll see rich people dripping in diamonds with like their big offerings. But then you'll also see people who look like they're janitors, and they have little marigolds in their hands, and it's so heartwarming and sweet to see. So it's a very like democratic flower. It's a very like people's flower.
Lovely. I've never thought about that.
Yeah, it's just, I have such a special place in my heart for that reason, like for
And as
marigolds.
you say, they are so, like
Yeah,
they
they're
exude,
happy.
yeah, and like they exude this kind of warmth and shape. And
Yeah,
because their petals are like crinkly, right? Like they're
yeah.
very textured, which is also, so I love that everyone can access that.
Yeah. So marigolds are in Hindi, they're called genda fool, which I have no idea why they're called genda fool. But because they're called genda fool, and for other reasons, I originally thought about talking about Dilly Six.
I love that song. I love that
That
song.
song is so amazing, and especially Wahida Rahman dancing in it. Oh,
Mhm.
my heart. So I thought about doing Dilly Six, and then I rejected that idea. Then my second idea was Door, because I really like the friendship between Gulpanag and Aisha Takia, but I wasn't really ready for like a heavier topic. And so I went with a tried and tested movie that I love, unironically, even though people really like rip on it, and that movie is 2008's Rabne Bana Di Jodi. This movie has Shah Rukh Khan, and it's Anushka Sharma's debut, of course. And I had a bit of a Feroz Khan moment when I was watching it, because it said written by, directed by, produced by, dialogues by, screenplay by Aditya Chopra. And I was like, all we're missing is the fireballs.
Right.
Um, but instead
They're
of the
also
fireballs,
orange.
right, which are also orange. But instead of fireballs, because this is not a Feroz Khan film, the movie actually begins with like a sunrise shot of the Golden Temple in Amritsar.
Right.
So there you go, sunrise, and it's orange. And I've seen this movie so long ago, even though I have watched it twice or thrice, just because it's an easy movie to just put on. And Surinder Sani is one of my favorite characters of all time. But I had forgotten how religiously like heavy-handed this movie is.
Oh,
Like literally from the title that says Rab ne Bana Di Jodi, like God has
yeah.
made this union, I guess, to the opening shot of the Golden Temple. It's like every 20 minutes in this film, there's either a shot of the Golden Temple, or there's a shot of people at temples or gurdwaras, or there's a character talking to a like a painting of Guru Nanak, or there is someone referring to Rab and about how Rab has put you together. I was like, wow, this movie is very heavy-handed with the social and religious messaging per se, which
Yeah.
I thought was also fitting because again, even though the movie is sort of like Sikh centric,
Yeah.
orange is a color that is valuable to the Sikhs as well. um, but I like this movie. I know it's silly. For those people who live under a rock and do not know what this movie is, even though it's like one of the biggest hits of all time, Surinder Sahni is this very meek, very sweet, very nerdy government officer. He works for Punjab Power, lighting up your life. And he is going to his ex professor's daughter's wedding out of town. He's from Amritsar and he's going out of town. I don't know which town he's visiting. His ex professor's daughter is Anushka Sharma. It is her wedding, but her fiance and his whole family, who is traveling by bus, they die in an accident. And then the professor has a heart attack, and on his sort of deathbed in the hospital, he tells Anushka Sharma, will she marry Surinder Sahni? And Surinder Sahni is like, sure, because of course. And then they get married. And then their romance, which is divinely ordained, ensues. And Tani, who is Anushka Sharma, is this very like filmy person. She watches, because she's young, she watches movies. She likes all of these things. She likes watching movies where the heroes are doing all sorts of like outlandish hero things, which is something Surinder Sahni is not. And so he decides to create an alter ego called Raj, who is hella annoying. And they become dance partners and they participate in this like Jodi number one or whatever contest that they have to that they eventually win, because of course they do. And in the meantime, they fall in love as well. So that is the gist of the film. People always say, how did she not recognize that that was her own husband despite the getup? And to that, my response is always, girl, have you seen Superman? Like you have Clark Kent with like his journalistic avatar and his cheshma, and then he takes it off and he's like, the man who flies or whatever. So it is a little bit silly for sure. This is not exactly an intellectual exercise in filmmaking, but I adore Shah Rukh Khan's character in this movie. Surinder Sahni is so cute, and he is, as Gen Z likes to call it, pure. He's so pure, and he's so like innocent and naive. And I cannot believe I'm going to reference Satyajit Ray right now, but I'm going to. So bear in mind, you know how I said I always worry about Apu.
Yeah.
And that is why I cannot rewatch Upward Sansar. I worry for Surinder Sahni because he's so naive and he's so innocent. He's basically a simpleton, Beth.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like he has any support system. He has no parents. There's no mention of them. So I assume he's an orphan. He has only one friend in the whole world, which is Bobby Khosla, which is Vinay Pathak, and I absolutely adore that character. He's so flamboyant and ridiculous, and his like hero is Dharmendra, which I very much appreciate. He also likes Sly Stallone, which also I appreciate. If he had mentioned Arnold Schwarzenegger fandom, I would have been like, Bobby Khosla, call me. We're going to be best friends. So it sounds like he just has the one friend, and he's like such a good, hard worker and an honest person, and he's such a green flag. Like,
Honest person.
I mean, well, I don't know.
I am a person who did not care for this film when it came out, and I have never revisited it, but it is on my list of things to try again. Um, and this is one of my problems with DDLJ is like, dude's lying. And like, if
He
you
is.
do it this successfully, that is a red flag. Is that
Yeah, or
right?
an orange flag.
Fully red, fully no, it's not slow, it's no. So before you mentioned Apu, I was thinking to myself, like, I mean, the deathbed go get married thing. I'm like, we just talked about that in Upper Sunsar, and somehow I'm okay with it there, but like this, I'm
Right.
I. But this is a different, this is 2007, 8, not
2008. Yeah.
40, whatever it's supposed to be, 30, whatever in that movie. So, uh, I am not, so I would like to watch it again. I really shouldn't say much
Okay.
until I do, but I'm not sure honest is a word that is fair. Or
Yeah, that's
that it's
true. I mean,
authentic.
that is artifice. And
Yeah,
I'm not
like
sure
you might
what
be
his
doing it for a good cause, but like
right.
that's
Yeah.
very deceptive, very deceptive. And he wouldn't, I think he wouldn't do it if he didn't think it would work.
Right. And there's
So,
also a scene where he's drunk and he's with Bobby Khosla in Bobby's hair salon or saloon, as we call it in India,
mhm,
in his hair saloon. And they're drinking. And this is a suggestion that Bobby comes up with. And I think the assumption is that all the outfits that Raj wears and like his hair and everything it's all Bobby's wardrobe. Like if you see those absolutely ghastly garish shirts and like the weird spiky gel, the
yeah,
boots and everything,
yeah,
I assume it is all taken from Bobby's
sure.
wardrobe. And this alter ego is very much created by the hairstylist friend. But yeah, it is dishonest and fake. And she buys into it, and that character is hella annoying. The Raj character is hella annoying. I think I just want Surinder Sani to be happy so badly, and I want the Tani character to be happy. And the music really makes it for me, like the Hole Hole song, the
Sure.
way it's shot.
That's a
And
love.
Sukhwinder Singh, man, his voice,
Uh,
like, is Sukhwinder Singh capable of singing a song in an average way? I don't think so.
not that
Every
I
time he sings, his
yeah.
voice just like soars, like in that song, in Hole Hole, in the other songs as well. He's just phenomenal. I love the use of the harmonium, the pedi
Mhm.
in that song. I love how it's recorded, like how it's shot, like almost like with a handy cam vibe through the little
Yeah,
alleys, and
yeah.
he's jumping on carts and he's dancing around like the traffic pole or whatever it's called, like near the roundabout. Um, I love Shah Rukh Khan's outfits in this movie because we've seen these outfits. These are very like middle class working man outfits in India where they wear these slacks that
Oh,
are
grab, yeah.
yeah, and then the soccer shoes with
Yeah.
them, the sneakers, and then the shirt that's tucked in, and you almost expect there to be like a pocket protector, and there's like ballpoint pens, and the chashma, and the hair, which is like very like good boy hair, as I like to call it.
Back, right?
Yeah, and then the dabba, the water bottle. His water bottle is yellow. He's so cute. I have a soft spot for like nerdy heroes. So like Surinder Sani, and then this guy is like not a simpleton. Obviously, he's very intellectual, but Dr. Ashok Ganguly from the namesake as well. Like I love those heroes that are not like heroes,
Yeah.
but they're more kind of like ordinary and simple, and they just dress down a little bit. There's certainly no fashion icons because only Bobby Khosla is that. Um, but I have a soft spot for that character, and I just think he's so sweet. And I like the fact that in this movie, for example, in order to not make her uncomfortable, he tells her she can have the bedroom, and he's gonna go sleep in the attic. And they show he's like, I sleep in the attic anywhere. Anyway, and then they show him upstairs like it's all cobwebs and it looks like a complete kabada, and he has to like clean it up. And he makes breakfast for her in the morning, and I think he's sweet. I like the fact that he takes her out to watch movies, and he's really trying to get this girl who's so traumatized. Like she's lost her dad, she lost her fiance.
Yeah.
Like in that wedding scene, her dad says she's having a love marriage. And so she's lost the love of her life. She's
Yeah.
lost her father. She suddenly got married and moved to Amritsar, which is not a city she's from. So one assumes she has no friends or anything there. She's gotten married to this complete stranger. And it's natural for her to be like really shut down. And the only thing that gives her some amount of like ray of happiness is this like dance contest. And then there's the whole like dance contesty stuff that happens. The I kind of find the references a little bit grating,
Mhm.
but I think the logic for it is that I think they want to override people's objections to this match, this idea that she has to get married, and this idea that these two strangers have to live together is kind of like, but God has ordained it, so who are we to say? So I
Right.
think it's kind of like a way to justify that is my logic. I think it's also to show the characters thinking, because all this extreme religiosity is not Tani's character, it's Surinder Sahni's character, right? He's the one that's very like religious and very like, God fearing, as they like to say. And I think for a lot of people with organized religion, it goes hand in hand with these ideas of like tyag, which is my favorite word, as we've spoken about, like this idea of like sacrificing yourself for the greater good, which is also a color associated, a feeling
Ah,
associated with color orange. And I think the idea is that he's doing something for someone without expecting anything in return because he's such a religious dude. So there's a lot of
mm,
stuff that doesn't make sense in this movie, but I was wondering why this movie has so much religion just like shoved down. And I that is the only explanation I could come up with. The title literally says Rab ne bana di jodi.
yeah.
So I think that's why I chose this for orange, because it's kind of an interesting. Also, what is interesting is that Surinder Sani wears a lot of like neutrals. He mostly wears like white or cream shirts and
Yeah.
these really drab grays and browns, and he's not a very classy person. But Raj, of course, wears bright orange and like red and like sparkles and whatnot. So the difference between those two characters as well, and it like that line that I read from the book about a man who wants to be like noticed. So,
Interesting. I do really intend to rewatch this sometime soon. Yeah, because it's one of the Shah films that I is a head scratcher for me in a way.
yeah,
But I also, I'm not an Aditya Chopra fan. Uh,
you're not a what?
I'm not an Aditya Chopra fan.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously some of the things he's produced and written are different, but as a director, he's not for me.
You don't think Mohabbat is the best movie ever?
Well, remember then he did Bayfikre? Remember Bayfikre?
I've never seen Bayfikre. I've avoided that movie studiously.
It's bad.
I mean, yeah, I don't particularly care for
Uh,
Aditya Chopra as a director. Like, I enjoy DDLJ. I think Mohabbat is absolutely god awful. I've steered clear of Bayfikre because no, thank you. And Bana Di Jodi is kind of the only other one that I kind of enjoy. But even with that, honestly, would I love this movie if it weren't for Shah Rukh? The answer is no. Um,
sure.
would I love DDLJ if it weren't for Shah Rukh? The answer is no. My
Mm.
Shah Rukh fandom and my Irfan fandom makes me like movies that they're in, even when I know those movies are not that good, and they can carry me along for the ride, even if I'm kind of like, I'm not sure I'm enjoying this,
But
but
when
it's like Shah Rukh's charisma
Mm.
takes me along with it. So because I really do think like the Raj character, which is hella annoying, is more similar to what Shah Rukh has played in his romantic films, right? Like this
Yeah.
very like vivacious character. But the Surinder Sani character, honestly, doesn't make me think of Shah Rukh.
Mm.
He just comes across as much more of this guy who lives in like Amritsar and is a government employee. That's much more believable to me, and it's very sweet the way he plays it. I also have to say, like, I'm not an Anushka Sharma appreciator by any stretch of the imagination. I think she actually acquitted herself quite well in this movie.
But,
I was surprised. I thought she was pretty good, and I was like, for your first film,
mm.
I think she did a really good job.
It's quite a first project to be in.
I know. I mean, both her and Deepika Padukone, right? Like their Hindi debuts were with Shah Rukh Khan, and they were monster hits. I mean, Rab Ne Bana Di Jodi and Om Shanti Om. I think Deepika's first film is actually a Kannada movie called Aishwarya, but no one talks about it. Everyone just talks about Om Shanti Om. So, what were some other Orange movies that you considered?
I didn't.
It was just
I think
Monsoon
I
Wedding.
watched Monsoon Wedding. I did sort of idly think because I had trouble finding it streaming
Oh yeah, you told me.
where I what I do and don't subscribe to. Um, and then I thought, oh, gee, I haven't left myself enough time to watch this thing. So as I was Googling, I was also trying to think, okay, what else is orange? But then I thought, just think of something else with the wedding in it. Go for the
Yeah,
go for marigolds again. Um, it did make me realize for all the marigolds that I see in Indian films and all the marigolds I have seen in India when I have visited, I don't think I've ever seen them growing in the countryside. But
yeah.
obviously
I
they
haven't
do grow
either.
in the countryside, or else they wouldn't be they wouldn't be there. But and they wouldn't be cheap, right? If they were wholesale.
Right.
So that was interesting to me. And I was like, oh, they must just be maybe they grow more away from the highways or the railroad tracks or what.
Yeah.
Just I've never seen them. Um, but yeah, so no, I didn't really get very far with this, but I did. So I believe for the color blue, maybe we linked a video called a chaotic analysis of blue outfits in Bollywood or something like
Hmm.
the whole series with many colors. So you could watch that woman's orange. And I had seen that that existed, and I thought, well, I'll go through that if I have to. But we've also talked about Kalnayak, which is and the movie with Mumtaz with the orange sari. So we've
Yeah.
covered that I consider the two most iconic orange outfits.
You know what's a very orange movie? Devdas. The Sanjay Leela Bhansali movie. There's so
Or
much orange in it. All the posters
yeah.
are orange too. I mean, I have no desire to revisit
Yeah,
that movie,
that's
but I'm
true.
just
There's
saying it's
orange
a very
background
like
there.
orange movie.
It did occur to me I could do a sort of fireball action movie if I needed to. So I was like, I could go check out a Feroz Khan film again or something.
Yeah.
Which is a very different vibe of orange. But yeah, and I was thinking about like all those, I feel like there's a lot of 90s Dharmendra movies that have a
Oh
big
yeah.
in the background, and I've never seen almost any of those. So
I've seen so many of those like late 80s, like Mithun Chakravarti, Jackie Shroff, Dharmendra movies that were like so B grade. And they all had the most alarming titles, which of course I loved. There was always like a big orange fireball. For some reason, Mithun Chakravarti was always in a singlet. Like he was always
oh,
in like
sure.
a tank top and he always had like an AK-47 or
Yeah.
something. He always
Yeah.
looked, he was like snarling
It's
at the
very
camera.
Rambo, right?
Very. And the title was always something like, my favorite title has to be Dunya ko jala ke raak kar dunga. I will burn the world to ashes.
Nice.
I mean, that is an appealing movie title,
I
okay?
believe I've seen a movie like that, and I don't even remember who's in it. It might be Mithun called Og Kagola.
Which is literally fireball.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Like
don't know how
Sabine
many
Shrek.
movies. I think he just like went from set to set to set, and they were all some version of that same film, and he just phoned it in and left.
I was
Um,
watching some song of his on YouTube the other day, and I was thinking like we've really only talked about Disco Dancer, like we've not brought Mithun to the. Oh no, I talked about a movie he was in with Meenakshi Seshadri, but like I need
oh,
Mithun movies in my.
yeah.
I start assigning myself some because I do really enjoy him.
I don't enjoy goofy Mithun. I enjoy really angry Mithun that is like burning everything
Sure.
around him, Thermitra. They're all very shouty. The fonts are really shouty too.
Okay.
They're all caps and they're those, I don't know how to describe them. They look like bricks.
Yeah, they look like rocks or bricks. Yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah.
And there's always like some volcanic action happening in the background, or there's like a car on fire. It's
Sure.
absolutely
A lot of
delightful.
scowling.
Yes.
Um, I have a Dharmendra question about some of his
Okay.
lesser films some people may consider. I asked Bluesky yesterday, was Dharmendra ever in a snake movie?
He should have been.
And when I posted this, I said, before you say, don't be ridiculous, think about how many A-list people are in snake movies. It's not everybody, but it's a good third to 40%,
Yeah.
even half, depending on the era. And like
I mean,
now,
Devi,
not
Amir
so
Khan,
much, but
Juhi.
yeah. Yeah. So like, is Dharmendra in a snake movie? I feel like
He has to have been. I mean,
I
he's
know
been in those skirts and sandals movies.
he
So,
could be a, now I don't know if he would have been an evil tantric, but he could be, or he could be the one who sort of saves everybody with the
yes.
knowledge of what to chant. Or he could be the paterfamilias of the house where the curse was placed, blah, 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 blah. So,
Yeah.
so many options.
So many options. I love all of those like 80s terrible films. You know, the one director that I associate with the color orange is actually Feroz Khan because of the
Sure.
very 70s fashions in his movies and
Yeah.
also this whole like cowboy western costume design in his films with like the suede jackets and
Yeah.
all of that stuff and like all of the browns and oranges and it's always shot on like horse stud farms for some reason. But also Rajiv Rai, who is
Sure.
one of my favorite directors. And then his films have a lot of orange in them because, again, they're very actiony. And then Rajkumar Santoshi made a lot of those like Ghayal and Ghatak. Like there's always a lot of orange in Sunny Deol films because Jeeps are on fire, Beth.
I could have done the burning train for an orange film.
I feel like I don't think there's any such thing as like an orange film that's very like gentle and very like soft. No, it's all like all cap
So
and like things on fire.
So here's the thing about orange to me. I love orange. I love the color you're wearing. I love the color I'm wearing. I love even like traffic safety cone orange.
Mm.
I don't want to wear it probably, but I love it as a thing. I love all the orange flowers, whatever. I don't care for peach.
Oh, okay.
Pastel orange is a big no for me. I don't like it. Like peaches, the fruit are lovely, but they're not actually the color we call peach, right?
Yeah.
And if anybody watched Jane the Virgin and Rogelio, who would always say, I do not pop in peach. I'm like, I do not care for peach either, Rogelio. Um, so it's interesting kind of when you turn down the volume on orange, I'm not interested in it anymore.
Yeah, like the peaches
You can
and
push
the
it,
apricots.
you can push it towards pink, like the sort of corals. I love those. You can push it
Mm.
towards brown, and I like that. You towards red. I love that. There's some like sometimes you can sort of morph a rusty orange into a like a maroon. I love that. But yeah, that kind of watered down orange, I don't like.
Or like a brick red also, which is
Beautiful, love
also a
it.
little bit that.
Mhm.
There's also like when we talk about like orange sometimes blending into red, there are shades that I 100% consider like orange, but all my American friends call them red because I just think that they're very coral, like they're very
Yeah.
saturated oranges, and so I classify them as orange, and my American friends are like, no, that's red. Like one of the colors, for example, that I love, and it's Valentino red, right? Like the
Mm.
color that he, and like if you take Valentino red and you just lighten it a little bit, to my eyes that's a dark coral orange. And I remember, so our common friend Christy, just to annoy her because I knew this would bother her, I was just being me, and I would say things like, oh yeah, Valentino red, also known as tomato. So like tomato red, because like to my
Right.
eyes
Yeah.
tomatoes are not really
Yeah.
red,
No, no,
they're
they
like a dark orange. And then
Mhm.
she would be like, did you just call Valentino red tomato? And I'm like, yeah. And I would just act totally nonchalant because I knew it bugged her so much. So there's those very dark corals which are still like, for example, the outfit that Tani wears in Bana Di Jodi, that's like her wedding outfit, the patiala shalwar and the kurta and the dupatta she's wearing, to my eyes that's not really a red joda, that's not
Mm.
red. To my eyes, that's an extremely dark coral,
Mm.
but that's where that line gets a little blurry.
For your American friends, I feel like orange is kind of a color we don't take too well in the United States. Like it's not as commonly found, I think, and I think
Yeah,
people just don't like it for whatever reason. So I feel like for them, they've been conditioned to see things as red that others
yeah,
accept as orange because they don't want it to be orange for whatever
yeah.
reason. Like I don't know why.
But
Years
I mean, to be
ago,
fair, like from a color theory perspective, orange is a difficult color to pull off.
but it shouldn't
There's,
be any harder than any of the other colors, right?
I feel like
Be
red is
harder than
easier
green or
though.
purple.
What's that?
It shouldn't be harder than green or purple,
That's true. But
right?
if you go to like a store, you're going to find so much more red than you'll find
I know.
orange. Like
I
you have
know.
to seek out
Yeah.
orange in a
It's
way.
harder to find in the US for
Right. Even in things
yeah.
like lipstick shades, like I have a
Yep.
lipstick shade that I bought purely because the title was, it was called Volcanic. I was like, it's called Volcanic, I'm buying it. But if you specifically went looking for orange lipstick, you're going to find maybe one shade in a sea of like reds and pinks and even dark maroons you'll find, but it's so hard to find an orange lipstick because I think maybe there's also a little bit of like a aesthetic backlash to the 70s where
Yeah.
people wore the orange lipsticks and people were like, no, thank you. Or
Mhm.
like with the 80s with the frosted pink lip.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that conditioning too going on, I think. Yeah. The funny thing is that even though I eventually chose Bana Di Jodi and I had two good contenders, Dilli 6 and Door, what I really, really wanted to talk about was The Martian. Because I love that movie. And that movie is entirely orange, by the way,
Wow.
because it's set on Mars, right? Because have you seen it?
No,
Oh,
no,
Beth, it's
too
so good.
stressful. No.
Yeah, it's a little bit stressful, but it's not. But there's a happy ending. I've read the book. I love the book. It's by Andy Weir, and it has Matt Damon in it. And literally, I know that Mars is called the red planet, but to my eyes, it just looks orange.
Well, and do we call it the red planet because in English because we didn't have the word for orange until so late? Like, is that maybe that's
Probably.
why? I don't know.
Because for
The
a
red.
red planet, like the movie is supposedly like it's set on Mars, right? Because like the story is that Matt Damon is an astronaut and there's like an accident, there's like a Martian windstorm, sandstorm, or whatever, and he hits his head and his team leaves without him, right? And now he has to survive alone on Mars for an entire year or whatever until the next space shuttle can reach him in order to bring him back, which I was like, Matt Damon in peril? Oh my God, give me more.
That's so horrible.
I think it's delightful. But the
Oh,
entire film, like he's farming potatoes. There's a very interesting science scene where he's using like sewage like his own sewage,
Yeah.
and he's using that as manure for the
Yeah,
potato
sure.
plants. It's wonderful. But the entire film is in shades of orange, and the
Mhm.
posters are so delightful because every poster is basically just a wash in orange, and then there's Matt Damon's face in his like helmet, and it's all like busted.
Oh,
So I desperately wanted to talk about The Martian. And then there's actually a Ryan Gosling movie coming out that is also like set, I think, like it's set in space. I'm very excited about that. I will probably watch it. I love that the International Space Station astronauts all wear that bright orange.
mhm.
Armageddon, Apollo 13, those movies have a lot of orange. I feel like American masala movies that I love that are very like space-ish have a lot of orange in them, which is very
I mean, it will
exciting.
certainly contrast against the blackness or
Yes.
the white or the silver of a space vehicle of some,
The chrome.
yeah, crash,
Yeah, it's
space crash. That's the word I was looking
right.
for.
And then,
Vehicle.
you know, what's another color, another movie genre that you see a lot of orange is dinosaur movies. Because
Oh,
as
cool.
every fan of Michael Crichton and Jurassic Park, which I'm a gigantic fan, would know, the whole story is set off because they find the dinosaur DNA in the
Yeah.
mosquito like bloodstream, and the mosquito is trapped in amber, right?
Yeah.
Amber is orange. And
Cool.
dinosaurs, at least T-Rexes, the way that they are depicted in the Jurassic movies, are like a rusty-ish
Mhm.
shade of brownish orange.
Mhm.
So that's really fun. And then there's another orange movie that I love. Have you seen Joe versus the Volcano?
Oh, a million years ago.
It's so old. And when I lived in Chicago, I had cable, like basic cable. But there was this channel, TBS Superstation.
Oh, yeah.
And for some reason, TBS Superstation would show two things. Number one, Law and Order repeats just constantly.
Or,
Anytime you switched on TBS Superstation, there was some Law and Order episode. I'd be like, oh, yeah, I'll watch it. There's 15 minutes left in it, but I'll watch it. Or they would show Joe versus the Volcano. So I've seen Joe versus the Volcano multiple times on
so
TBS
funny.
Superstation in like bits and pieces. So I love the whole like volcano, lava, magma, all of that stuff that
Mhm.
happens in it. I think orange as a color because it represents danger and like forces of natural danger that can annihilate humans
Mhm.
lends itself so well to these Hollywood like disaster movies where I also there's this movie where Pierce Brosnan plays a volcanologist, which I
Oh,
didn't even know
yeah.
was a thing. And I sent you the photo, and I was like, I did not know that volcanologists look like that, but I'm on board because he looked good.
I forget what movie that is, but I remember that being kind of a joke that Pierce Brosnan was a volcanologist.
I love that. I would have gone into STEM if I knew that the scientists look like him. But yeah, I feel like Hollywood actually does orange really well. And when they do orange, it's always in that like disaster flick
Yeah,
genre where it's like summer hijinks,
right,
basically.
right.
Whereas I think Indian films don't necessarily feature orange quite as prominently as Hollywood films do, like specifically. It's just there.
Yeah. There's a lot more orange just around
Just
the US
overall.
too, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, some parts of the US certainly deserts,
Yes.
would be more orange. But like around here, for example, we are having a tufan, excuse me if there's crashy banging noises. Um, I don't feel like I mean, there are orange flowers, but they're just not as nearly as many as there are white or pink or purple, for example. So like it's just
Yeah.
as common a color in nature. Parts of the US have dirt that is it's called red, but really it's orange, right? It's like that kind of
Yeah.
the iron sulfurous orange. But yeah, orange is a tricky one, I think.
Yeah.
Thing.
Spring here in Northern California is really beautiful because the hills and the meadows are all like blanketed in California poppies, which is the state flower, and it looks so
But
beautiful. It's
that
like
color, that orangey
just
red is so pretty.
yeah, just the swath of California poppies, and the hills are green because it's still
Mhm.
spring and it's really pretty. I actually associate orange a lot with California
Sure.
just because it's the Golden State and the Golden Gate
And
Bridge
the
and all of
sun,
that.
yeah, and the bridge, yeah.
Yeah.
See that.
Other than that, I think the only other American city associate with like just popping colors, not necessarily orange, is Miami,
Sure.
with South Beach and all of the Art Deco
Yeah.
architecture that they have and the bright, happy colors that they have. Um,
What is your favorite orange food?
oh, oranges.
Just
I
one.
love oranges, especially clementines.
Oh, I
They're
love
so,
clementines.
the
Yeah.
Cuties brand. I'm obsessed with those. I love those. But when I go to India, I like to eat papaya.
Mm.
So we do get papaya here, but it's not quite
It's not as good,
as
right?
yeah, it's not as good. So when I go to India, I load up on papaya as much as I can. But I love a good citrusy, orangey thing. And actually, my favorite soft drink, which I don't drink a lot of, is actually Fanta.
Mm.
And did you ever see that Fanta ad? It was so irritating, but so good.
Fanta, Fanta, don't you want to?
Yeah, it was like wanna Fanta, don't you wanna Fanta? It was such an earworm. I loved it.
Yeah.
And I was like, actually, yes, I do want a Fanta.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah. What is your favorite orange food?
I too am very fond of clementines. I love even more than that, although I eat it less often because it's unwieldy, is grapefruit.
Oh, really?
Of
You
course,
like
some of those are pink
grapefruit?
on the inside, some are more pale yellow, but some are kind of orange on the inside, I would say. Yeah, I love grapefruit.
I find it so bitter.
Yeah, I that's one of those, they say that your taste buds change as you age. So I don't know if that's actually true, but I certainly feel like it has been true. Or maybe I've just mentally decided I can handle more bitter things, but I love grapefruit.
That's so interesting.
But yeah, the citruses are good. All the orange fruits I've ever had have been good. So
I like the orange flavored mithais that we get in India. Like,
mm.
orange burfis, and then mangoes, of course, are in that borderline
Yeah,
color of like yellow
yeah,
and orange. So,
definitely.
like all the mango related stuff that we get is really yummy. And so many Indian foods are orange because of kesar, because of saffron.
Apricots is good, are good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Jalebis.
the jalebis are orange.
I love
Sure are.
jalebis. Like no wedding is complete like without a jalebi counter where you go over there and they're like frying fresh jalebis for you and they give you the jalebi with a little bit of rabdi on top. Oh, it is the best. I love it. And they're so sticky and gooey and just like disgustingly sticky and I love that too. I also love Cheetos.
Doritos are orange.
Doritos are orange.
I love Doritos.
Have you ever eaten those cheese puffs? I
Yeah, yeah,
love cheese
the round
puffs.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah, those are so good. Every time I go to Trader Joe's, I get those.
You put them in your mouth and they almost dissolve because they're
Yeah,
so
they do.
and Cheez-Its crackers. I love those.
Jesus, yeah. I mean, a lot of junk food is orange.
Yeah.
And isn't that a color that's very much associated with like McDonald's? I mean, I know it's like the golden arches or whatever, but
I
I
mean,
associate
it's
it with
it's so
orange.
associated with American cheese, right? So I think that's
Yeah.
where it's going to come into a burger related place. But yeah, that kind of like super processed cheese.
Or like a grilled cheese made using craft singles.
I do love a grilled cheese made with Kraft singles. That is good.
What would you call tomato soup? Because to my eyes, that's orange,
Yeah, I agree. It's a reddy orange, but yeah,
right?
it's
Yeah.
definitely on the orange side of red. Yeah.
Yeah. I think some iconic Bollywood. So when I think of orange in Bollywood, I immediately think of Madhuri Dixit
Or
because I would say a vast majority of her like famous songs, she's wearing orange. So she's wearing this really beautiful shade of orange satin in Dhak Dhak Karne Laga. Then she's wearing a really dark rusty orange in the song Choli Ke Piche Kya Hai in Khalnayak.
mhm.
She's wearing a very mangoish, yellowish orange in the song Mera Piya Ghar Aaya from Yarana. She's wearing a really beautiful shade of mangoish orange in the song Maini Mai from Hum Aapke Hain Kaun. She's wearing orange in that song from Mahanta. I forgot the name of the song, but she's with Sanjay Dutt and that she's wearing like an orange chiffon sari. So like when I think of the color orange, I think of Madhuri Dixit because she's worn the maximum orange outfits in her films. And then of course there's Mumtaz's iconic orange sari from Aajkal Tere Mere Pyar Ke Charche Har Zaban Par. But yeah, it's the color you put the heroine in.
Sure. Yeah, best friend is not going to be wearing orange if the heroine
Mhm.
is not wearing orange.
Extras are not in orange either. It's very much heroin color.
That's interesting. I feel like you do see some peach in the background sometimes, but yeah, like
Yes.
or like with the color you're wearing, like that is heroin color.
Yeah. Also, because can you imagine if you had like 15 extras behind the heroine, they were all in that eye-searingly popping orange? I mean, that would be too
I bet
much.
that exists somewhere. I bet there's
Oh,
backup, but
sure.
then the heroine would be in white or something, right?
Yes.
To really contrast. But I bet that I feel like I can picture some songs where the lead is in black and the backers are in orange, but I
Okay.
can't think what it is. But please, listeners, tell us what are your favorite orange coded song sequences?
I mean, you don't really see a lot of men wearing orange in Hindi films unless they're comedians, right?
Well,
Like
and you get this
Govinda.
this kind of the hand loom orange, right? The more
Mm,
like natural dye kind of orange. I feel like you see men in that a
the
little.
softer orange, yeah. You don't really
It'd
see
be
them in
like
like the bright
Stevie
orange.
Naval in this kind of color, right? The kind
Yeah,
of brick orange.
yeah, the
An art,
rusties.
like you said, this is an art film orange.
Yeah, this is very much David Dhawan orange.
Oh, Govinda must wear orange a lot.
Oh, he has to. Yellows, orange, all the bright colors. This is giving me a desire to rewatch Raja Babu, which is a movie I've seen many
Oh,
times.
I can't believe I didn't think of this. And we have already discussed this film. One of my favorite orange pieces of
Oh,
clothing in all of Hindi cinema is Shah Rukh Khan's cargo pants
oh
in,
yeah, Pretty
uh,
Woman.
in Pretty Woman, the most epic song ever.
That's true. I think is that the only time we've seen Shah Rukh in that eye-searingly bright and orange? I think that may be.
I certainly couldn't tell you, but it's not a color I associate with him particularly.
Mm-mm.
But those are iconic to me, partly because
They
this is
are.
so fun, but those are really pretty standout pants.
Yeah.
So much so that the doll version of Shah Rukh has those pants. Those are the outfit he
Right.
with are is that outfit. So
Nice.
I should go get him on. He's wearing his orange pants right now.
Oh, go get him.
He's in the other room. I'll bring him next
Oh,
time.
good. He's napping. It's fine.
And he's enjoying the Tufan out the window.
Nice. So, do you have any closing parting thoughts on the color orange or on the movie that you chose?
Monsoon Wedding really, so for me, because I hadn't rewatched it in so long, I think a lot of, for example, I don't think I'd seen it since kind of the Me Too movement came, and
Mm,
some of us became a lot more aware of the prevalence of sexual assault and sexual abuse and the just absolute pandemic of women not being believed and
mhm.
no action being taken on that. And so obviously I knew that in my life before, but I'm so much more aware of it now. And then to see that thread in this movie was really powerful to me. Uh,
Yeah,
Shefali Shah, man.
she's amazing.
I know we know she's amazing, but then to see it, and she's so young, relatively. I mean, she's not a baby in this film, but she's
Right.
obviously considerably younger, and just thinking what that character must be going through. And Nasir's character in this movie is not someone I like all the time. He's
Mm,
mental. He's very judgy about his son who just wants to like dance and cook. And Nasir's like, no, he's going off to boarding school. He basically has to go be a man, is all
right.
that he says. Um, but yeah, there's so many little threads in this film, and they are put together. I mean, Mira Nair is just obviously so good, and
Yeah.
I I can imagine maybe that this movie feels. I don't remember how this movie obviously was received by Indians when it came out,
Mhm.
but among like people from other parts of the world that I knew when we watched it, we all loved it.
Yeah.
Does it to some Indians feel like kind of an oversimplified or a little bit of a flattened version of a big family wedding? And like, is this kind of a
I don't think so. I think it was popular in India as well among Indians. So, I mean, it's just a really, really good movie.
it is, and like everyone in it is acting so well, and it just, the way music is used obviously is so fun. It's got that really interesting kind of electronica score in
Yeah.
parts, and which is so great because they're always messing with the fuse box and the powers going off,
Right.
stuff like that, and like the different um the song that they do their dance number to at the Sangeet or that is so fun, and everybody comes out and dances, and like it's a bewitching movie to me. So
It's very exuberant.
yeah, it is. And I would love to know. I should have left myself time to like go digging for some articles about it and stuff, but I really it's lovely, and I'm so glad to have seen it again. But if you are a person who has kind of critical some more if you have critique to offer of Monsoon Wedding in a sort of in a more negative way, I would be interested to know what it is because I will leave room in my brain for it to be imperfect, certainly.
Yeah.
Stand with everybody, but I find it a very powerful film, and it gets at family, I think, in a way that is somewhat more nuanced than sometimes we see in a more mainstream film, obviously, and that this family is imperfect and they find a way to stay together, except the person who really transgresses, who is sent away.
Thrown out. Yeah. I think for me, Monsoon Wedding was such a like interesting and unusual movie to watch because obviously in Indian movies, they love to show weddings, right? Because it's so easy and convenient. And often it's the location for like a meet cute. Like, for example, in Chandani, that's where he sees her for the first time, right? And like, oh, she's ladki wale and he's ladke wale or whatever. And, like it's used, weddings are used as like a setting for
Sure.
so many things to happen and for stories to continue. But they're never the main thing in Indian movies. And anytime they have like a background of a wedding, it's always just like the giddiness of it and the
Yeah.
exuberance and the people dancing, which is fine. But weddings are also very, very stressful.
Yeah, you
And
do see that in this, don't you? Yeah.
it's one of the few movies where you actually see that, like, you see the terrible people that are invited to weddings. Like every Indian wedding has extended family or distant family that is invited, despite the fact that everyone knows they're a piece of shit, right? Because you can't uninvite people, and it's like,
Right.
why? You totally can uninvite people. So there's always people that are invited that you think have no business being there. You have always, there's always like that naraz fufaji meme where there's that one uncle that everyone has to cater to, who gets drunk and starts mouthing up racist and stupid things like that, and everyone is like, oh, here he goes again. um there's so much drama in weddings, where yes, there's the giddiness and exuberance and the vivacity and like the fun aspect, but they're also hella stressful. Like I got laryngitis 1 week before my wedding.
Ugh.
Like I literally woke up and I was croaking. I didn't have a voice anymore. My mom immediately took me to the family doctor, and he said, you have laryngitis, and he said it's because of stress. And I was like, what the heck? you know so it's just, I like the fact that Monsoon Wedding, it talks about stuff that unfortunately South Asian culture teaches us to shove everything unpleasant under the rug. You don't talk about certain things. Maybe you talk about it in close quarters, but you don't really talk about stuff. Everything is always shoved under the rug. And Monsoon Wedding is one of the few movies that like sheds a spotlight on that. And that's what makes it so interesting to me.
But the
Yeah, I can't
villain,
imagine what criticism someone would have of it, to be
that the
honest.
villain, Rajat Kapoor's character, you never see for sure him doing anything.
Mm,
But you see Shafali Shah watching him when he's with the younger cousin who is like 7 or something like that. She's little,
mm. She's suspicious, yeah.
very suspicious, and you never know exactly what he's doing because it could
Yeah.
be that he really was just reaching the biscuit jar for her or the
Hmm.
whatever it is. And there's this scene where some of the older cousins are talking about kissing, and she says she has an opinion about kissing, and then Shafali Shah is like, "Why does she know that? You know,
Right.
who told her that?" So often in mainstream stuff, maybe someone from the family would be ejected when it's proven they've done something truly horrendous that people have seen. But here, nobody saw anything except the
Right.
victim, and still she is believed, which is really remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that you see there's a scene where Nasir is golfing and he asks for kind of an advance on his salary or a small loan because he's overspent on this wedding.
Yeah.
Golfing buddies are kind of jerks about it to him, really. And it's this is a brief little scene, and to my understanding, you don't really see it followed up on, but you see him with all the receipts, like going through and trying to figure out all the money, and then he and Lila Dubé are arguing because he's like, I'm doing all the work. She's like, what are you kidding me? Who's been running around for 4 days organizing all this, the food and everything?
Right.
Oh yeah, that. So it does really get at I think the stress of a wedding, and then some of the closeness that can happen when everyone is together.
Right.
When you stop and think about love, or when you stop and think about hope for the future, or
Hmm.
families making choices that are good, or things like that, it's really lovely. And I love the two of them after the accusation has come about
Hmm.
the uncle, that they have a moment of intimacy, that couple. It's almost wordless, and it's really beautiful. Those two actors are, I'm not sure, I don't know what people think about Lilette Dubé, but I always like her, and I think it's partly because of this movie, because again, this was the first thing I
Yeah.
saw her in, and I'm very kindly disposed towards her, but I think she's so good in this. So yeah, anyway.
She's amazing, but I think most people don't think about her too much because she's actually a theater artist.
Right.
So whenever I'm in Mumbai, and my mom subscribes to like, two newspapers, and when you turn to the pages where they have like theater shows and stuff, there's almost always some Lilith Dubé performance that is happening, like A Man's World or whatever. Like she mostly does like English language theater,
Mm,
and then her husband, of course, is Pandit Dubey, Satyajit Dubey. And so he was, I think he's passed. And I think he was more of like a Hindi language
mm,
theater person. So like I feel like people who watch theater
sure.
know more of her, but in the movie she hasn't really done a ton. I mean, she's done Monsoon Wedding obviously, and then she had that brief comedic role in like Kal Ho Na Ho and stuff
Mm,
like that, but I don't think like primarily
yeah.
movie watching audiences have much of an opinion of her, you know. And I think her daughter Ira Dubey also
Yeah.
does more theater, because
I
the
thought
only
she
thing
was
I've
really,
seen her in is Aisha.
yeah. Yeah.
So
She's really good.
yeah,
I thought. So yeah, it's a fairly magical movie, I think.
I'm fully expecting brickbats for my choice of Bana Di Jodi, because it's one of those movies that people really dislike.
Well, even if they do, I hope that they will appreciate the connections you drew with it, especially to Orange, because
Right,
I didn't know how you were going to connect it to Orange.
right,
When you sent me the screen grabs of some of Bobby's outfits earlier, I was like, is she doing this for Orange? What?
right.
That I've only seen it, I think, the one time. So
Yeah,
it could have all sorts of major Orange outfits in it, and I just flat out don't remember. But
right.
I thought that was really interesting interpretation of how to connect to Orange. So we had sort of
Yeah.
celebratory Orange, and then we had more contemplative Orange in a way.
Yeah, and very like Tyagan is that the orange, but not like shouty Tyagan is that, more
Right.
like quiet
Small
Tyagan is
acts of
that.
faith, kind of,
Yeah, kind of. It's
kind of.
interesting. It's, I will say this about Rabne Banadi Jodi, like whether someone likes it or not, it's a very interesting film. And
Sure.
it does result in a lot of like conversation and stuff like that. I think it has many layers to it, and it brings up questions. And this whole idea of perhaps being loved, like there's this angle to it of like, you know, she loves him not when he's like the mousy Surinder Sani, but she loves the really flamboyant version of him, which is not that different from the idea of say Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, where when Kajal was like the tomboy who dressed terribly or wore sports gear or whatever, he was not interested in her. The minute she had her makeover and she starts wearing saris and she has the flat iron hair, she's suddenly much more attractive to him, right? So it also brings up these questions of like, to what extent do you love someone because of their exterior, like their wardrobe and their personality, because those things do play a role. And I don't think it's fair to necessarily say, well, that makes you a superficial person, right? Like we all have aesthetic preferences, but it's also his behavior, and then ethical what he does. It's, there's a lot of questions that this movie brings up, so I think it will be interesting to see what the comments say. Oh, hi, Mr. Hugo Watkins. You know what's a very popular orange color for kitty cats? It's
Cool.
the gingers.
I love the ginger cats. One of my favorite cats is named Eugene, and he was a Chicago alley kitten who was taken in by friends of mine, and he is a magnificent pyramid of fluff. He is the fluffiest cat I've ever met, and he is marmalade colored. I call him marmalade fluff.
So cute. There is a subreddit I'm a member of that you should join. It's called One Orange Brain Cell,
Yeah,
because it celebrates all orange cats, because apparently there's a prevalent belief that all orange cats are stupid.
that they shared about it, so
I own calicos, so I don't know. But like One Orange Brain Cell is a great celebration of feline stupidity.
I love it. Yeah, I think Eugene gets to keep the brain cell pretty well. He's not. I don't think he's a stupid cat.
Okay, that's good.
He's a very sweet cat.
Oh, he sounds wonderful. Okay, I think that concludes this episode of the color series. Our next color is going to be red. That's going to be exciting. I have to think about what I'm going to do. Yeah. You should watch The Martian. It's really good.
Sounds really.
He survives. He survives. So it's fine.
Yeah.
Matt Damon does not die. So it's fine.
I do enjoy Matt Damon. I've been watching clips of 30 Rock on YouTube recently, and I had
Yeah.
completely forgotten he was in 30 Rock as one of
I had no idea he was in 30 Rock.
yeah, he plays a boyfriend for Liz Lemon for a while. And
Really?
I just the delight of seeing him in that is so funny. He's so funny.
Nice. Okay, well, that concludes this episode. We will see you next week. Tell us what your favorite orangey movies are. We've completely forgot to mention that orange is often featured in like patriotic movies like
Right.
Kesari and Kesari 2 and stuff like that because it was used so much like in the freedom struggle and stuff. And
Mhm.
I didn't want to talk about Hey Ram because I've never actually seen that film in its entirety because it's very dire. But there's a lot of orange in Hey Ram as well.
And a lot
Um,
of those like Marathi
mhm.
warrior sort of movies. Yeah, there's a lot of people
Yeah.
orange things happening.
Yeah.
Avoid yard those.
Yeah. All right. We will see you next week. Thank you for watching. Bye.